Welcome to the Go Shout Love podcast. I am Seth Carnell. This is quickly becoming something that I look forward to, revisiting with previous families we have highlighted and hearing what's been going on since their month on Go Shout Love. If you've been following us for a while, you may have heard this music before and be familiar with the name Sofia, a beautiful little girl with pitt-hopkins. And her mom will give us a refresher on what that is and what that means for Sofia in this episode. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but one thing I wish for all of our listeners and followers would be able to get to meet these kids and families the way that we do. It is beyond a privilege. I will never forget Sofia. After capturing her story and meeting with them, I got to hold Sofia for a few minutes and she smiled and grabbed my nose and my beard and just stared at me with her piercing eyes and contagious smile, and it was uplifting. She is older and a lot has changed. She is now a big sister to a baby brother Caleb and also in school. Stefanie, Sofia's mom, will be sharing with you about both of those, including why they named their son Caleb, and you'll want to hear about that. Her relationship with the school, how Sofia is progressing, and how inclusion is playing a factor. This has become a regular topic and a very important one to pay attention to and learn from. Stefanie and Tyler, Sofia's dad, first introduced our team to the term inchstones. We get to learn new terms all the time the more we meet with families, and that one has stuck with us. And you'll want to hear more about Sofia's inchstones, as well as the continued involvement with pitt-hopkins communities and research that Stefanie and Tyler have been involved with during their journey. This conversation is led by Josh Veach, one of our co-directors, and he was lucky enough to be able to Skype with Stefanie and have this wonderful conversation. As always, please rate and review this podcast on the platform you are listening on. Enjoy, and here is Josh.
For anyone who's listening and you don't know Stefanie and Tyler yet, we got to feature their daughter, Sofia, in September of 2018. And so, Stefanie, for anyone who's new to Go Shout Love and maybe hasn't gone back to some of our earlier families, give us just a glimpse into your life and tell us about Sofia, including her age, her diagnosis, and then most importantly, her personality.
So Sofia is she's 3.5, almost 4. She'll be 4 in March. She is resilient. Her smile and giggle are beyond contagious. She just totally lights up any room that anyone walks into. She's her smile just is something that she can share with the world. And her diagnosis, she at 19 months old, she was diagnosed with pitt-hopkins syndrome. She is one out of about 1,000 in the world diagnosed with pitt-hopkins. It's a gene mutation on chromosome 18 and a specific gene, which is gene TCF4. And it really just affects the way her whole body can connect and with her brain and her muscles. And
with the diagnosis of pitt-hopkins, one of the things that it brought with that some developmental delays. And so one of the phrases that you guys mentioned in our visit that really stuck with our team was the phrase of inchstones. And since then, we've heard that from other families too. But basically the idea of inchstones are you're celebrating these small milestones of things that, otherwise other people might think of just as everyday things, but for you guys, it's these really monumental, these small steps that are really important. And at that time, when we first chatted, one of the greatest inchstones that you were celebrating was that Sofia had started to reach for you, and that was really exciting and powerful. And so I've wondered, since then, what are some other inchstones that you guys have been able to celebrate with Sofia?
Yeah, so oh my gosh, September 2018 was a while ago.
Yeah,
so she's done quite a bit since then. And so in November 2018, she did her 3-week intensive therapy program at the NEPA Center here in Boston. And she was so close to crawling for over a year. And that intensive therapy program actually, the third week on that Wednesday, I'll always remember she crawled across the girl that I nanny's wood floor in her home, and it was one of those moments of you're planning for it for so long, you're working on it for so hard, and then when she does it, it's like a dream come true. So that was definitely more for us a milestone, but to get to those moments of her doing all her inchstones to get there, I mean, the whole journey of her getting to crawl was, exciting. You're on edge. When's she gonna do it? So she does crawl, and it's been increasing more so lately. So just because of with her delays, like, it does take her a while to process, like, okay, I need to get to point A to point B to get my toy. So now she's just starting to take off with her crawling, which then led her to be able to start pulling to stand, holding on to like the pack and play, like holding on to something secure that she can actually puts her mouth on. Like, she's very smart, so she knows she needed like another point of contact to pull herself to stand. So she was able to find that as a way to pull herself up. So that was another big one that we celebrated this summer. And now it just kind of, right now, she's just been cruising along with her development. She's in school now. Mm-hmm. She's in a full inclusion program at our local public school. We could not be any more grateful for her teachers and her team of therapists, as well as the classroom aides and the nurse who checks in on her daily. It's just so incredible. And the things that, we're seeing her do, her understanding and her expression has really been just emerging. And just to see her engaging with other typical children in her day-to-day life at school has just been absolutely, it's something that you can't even describe, because it's so amazing to see our daughter, who we weren't sure like where she would end up for schooling, to see her in an inclusion program and fully doing, what the typical children are doing, of course, adaptive wise. Mm-hmm. But besides that, it's one of the best feelings as a parent, seeing your child be able to, go to school and be independent, because that's one big thing that we do. That's one big goal with us for Sofia, is just to see, to get her to be as independent as possible. And I think her independence has really been like huge inchstones in our life, of seeing like little things, or like, oh my gosh, she's one little thing. Like last night, I can think of Tyler was feeding her dinner, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's like, she knows that a piece of food's falling out of her mouth, and she goes and grabs it. So really, like little things like that seem like silly are so huge in the world of, children with special needs. So, I think that's like kind of what we celebrate, is just honestly every little thing that she does. We're like, oh my God, that's incredible. And, we've learned to really just appreciate her journey and just celebrate those milestones and appreciate every little thing that she does do.
It's so great to see, to know that Sofia is in that classroom environment. And I'm positive that not only is that a positive for Sofia, but I'm sure that that's impactful for the rest of the kids in the classroom. And so I'm wondering, what is it like? Have you heard or been able to experience any of those dynamics of Sofia being in that classroom and the impact that she's having on other kids in her class, her classmates?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things. When she first started, so I guess I'll lay it out like this. So Sophia is actually the only one in her school right now who does go to school in a wheelchair. We have a wheelchair stroller for Sophia that, we put her in. And when she first started, the kids would be like, "That's Sophia, Mom, in the chair. Look at her cool chair." And they would be talking and saying hi to her as like I would be bringing her into school. And that for me was such a good experience, seeing that not only is Sophia getting that inclusion experience, but so are the other kids. They didn't see Sophia as being delayed or anything like that. They're seeing her as, "That's Sophia in her cool chair. Look how awesome she is, Mom."
Right.
And like that was the genuine how it was. So I think for a parent with a child with, a severe special needs, having your child in an inclusion program a lot of times is, a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to look at it as not only is it good for Sophia, but it's so good for every other child, and realizing that, so they can see, what it takes, the courage and determination. When she was in her gait trainer, the teachers would tell me that the kids would be cheering her on. Like when she would be taking steps, they would be like, "Go, Sophia, go." And
oh, that's so great.
so genuine and natural. And they push her on the swing, and they fight over who's going to push her on the swing and who's going to play with Sophia.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those feeling that not only like is it great for my daughter, but I know it's so great for the other children, especially at this age.
Right.
So hopefully that can segue into, an inclusion life and the children understanding, the differences, once they move on from this level of schooling.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about the inclusion opportunity in the school, and especially with her being the only child right now that you mentioned in a wheelchair, what was that process like? Was that a battle to get her to that point, or how has it been working with the school system?
So we are very lucky here in our town. It, of course, when you're transitioning from early intervention into the school system, the stress level of the unknowns, learning to, I was taking classes to learn what an IEP was and how I was going to have a voice at the table, because not only am I Sophia's mother, like I label myself as Sophia's biggest advocate, and I'm her team captain. And at that table, I needed to have a voice, and I wanted them to know, in a very nice way, I wanted to have a good relationship with the school system, and and for me and for our situation in our town, it was pretty seamless, which I know is not always how it goes, and we're very grateful for that, because I know it can be very stressful, and getting school systems to agree to certain requests that your child needs and whatnot can be a big fight and a big headache for families, and just in general, like having trust in a team of professionals that you're just going to leave your child with is leave your child with, even if they're typical, but never mind with severe needs. It's a huge it's like it's an inch stone and milestone for families.
Sure.
Because it's a big, you're letting your child go at such a young age, right when they turn 3, you send them off to school, and you really have no choice about it. It's something you just have to adapt to. And, it's very emotional, and it can, and if you're not coming to an agreement with the school system or finding that happy medium level of understanding with each other, then, it's going to be extra stressful. But for us, we were able to find a good plan for Sophia, and it really has just been working out, and it's been really great. She actually she started, we eased her in, but so in our town, Sophia qualifies for full days. So she qualifies for 9:15 to 3:15 Monday through Friday, except on Wednesdays they get out at 1:15. But so anyway, so we kind of were easing Sophia in. So when she first started in April, we started with 9:15 to 11:45, and the goal was by September that we were going to have her go 9:15 to 1:15. So we, with some of her neurological disorder stuff, one of her biggest things is she doesn't sleep well. So like I'm talking, she'll be up for like 3.5 hours in the middle of the night, just like partying. We call it Sophia partied last night. And most nights she'd just be up happy and smiling, clapping, giggling at us. And we would leave her in her crib, and that's when she would cry, and she knew it was a game to her. She wanted to be with us. So anyway, we got to the point where we needed to get rid of her nap. And so it was literally the first week of school. And so the teacher's like, her teacher, who is just incredible, she was like, whenever you're ready, we'll keep her till 3:15. It's part of her plan. Mm-hmm. So it was like the first or second week of school, and I was like, okay, maybe let's try it on Friday, because just see how it goes. And sure enough, we started her. So she goes 9:15 to 3:15, and she just absolutely loves it. And not only she's just learning so much, and she's emerging. Her personality's like coming out even more, and it's the best thing for her. That routine is so important.
You mentioned taking a class on getting familiar with what an IEP is. Where did you find that resource?
So that one I found through one of our local. So in Massachusetts here, we have different organizations that share things. So there's the Federation for Children of Special Needs, and they share all different types of trainings that they have going on, family meetups. There's a few organizations that I'm a part of. Another one is early intervention, parent leadership project. There's a few just organizations that you can follow within. You just have to find them within your state, and from there they offer different parent trainings for families,
so as well as kind of helps those families be prepared to go into that process and kind of help them find their voice at the table.
Yes, and that's one of the biggest. If I didn't take that class, I honestly would have gone in thinking it was a fight. And having that knowledge of taking that class, I was able to figure out and learn that, you really need to go in, see what they have to offer, and also just, go in with the mindset of okay, this isn't a fight. But when it is going to, if it's going to be, because it's part of the whole journey, at some point, I'm sure I'm going to have to fight for something for Sophia. And that's when, what your laws are and all of that. And then from there, you'll be ready for that fight. So that was what I kind of learned a lot from taking that class. It gave me the confidence of knowing okay, I'm Sophia's team leader. I'm very much part of this table, and any decisions that are going to go on with Sophia, I'm going to be in agreement as well, or disagreement. So they need to listen to me as well. And, I think Tyler and I went in it with very positive, and just really wanted to hear them out and see what they thought was best for Sophia.
You and Tyler both have been engaged in the broader Pitt-Hopkins life, and including going to the convention and kind of staying closely tuned into research that's being done. I know that's been important to you guys. Have you seen any developments or opportunities in the Pitt-Hopkins research or anything that's changed in that landscape over the last year or so?
Yeah, oh my gosh, research is booming. It is. We have there for Pitt-Hopkins specifically. There's like five things that are so close to human trials, and actually there is one. Our first human trials happening in Arizona. I can share. I don't know too much about it, Sophia. You have to be 7 to qualify. So Sophia wouldn't qualify yet. But it's a gut replacement type of research going on that is on to human trials. But there is just so many things that are so close. Gene therapy is so close. There is just so much hope on that level, which we are. It's one of those things like that goes back to our shirt, like hang on to hope.
Yeah.
Like it's truly like that's one of our biggest things is we are always hanging on as much as we can. Cause we don't need there to be a quote unquote cure for our daughter. We just want there to be something to help her, something just to make life easier for her. Make life a little easier for her to be able to communicate with us, or, be a little more able to be mobile without all the work she has to put into it. So we're very, very hopeful.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
And it's not just Pitt-Hopkins. There's so much going on just like in the rare communities, but even just like the types of gene therapy that's going on.
Yes.
It's just hopeful for all syndromes, and
Yes.
it's just such a great feeling.
We recently had a conversation with Grace, who is Nella's mom, and this was a few months back, and she was talking about the developments that have happened in the SMA world, and the gene therapy, and basically the rewriting of some of that genetic code that basically overwrites the deletion. And it's just mind-blowing what can be done. And so some of these, especially early detected cases of SMA that get this treatment, you're seeing these kids that are able to, they're the same kids no matter what they're able to do, but like you said, they're getting opportunities that SMA kids before them didn't have. And it's so great to see that happening, like you mentioned, in all elements of genetic therapies and things like that. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to stay up to date on what happens in the Pitt-Hopkins world.
Yeah, so the SMA, that's just been so hopeful for all of the communities, not just SMA, because the fact that they were able to figure that out for SMA is so hopeful for syndromes like ours. And so, yeah, like it's not one of those things where you're like, oh man, I wish it was Pitt-Hopkins. It's like, no, like that's so hopeful for us. And the fact that, SMA got there means that it can be possible for all of us.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that you celebrate along with each other. Even, because any other syndrome that finds out something that only helps all of us. So it's one of those things you just, you celebrate and support each other, and it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I want to shift gears and kind of dive into your family just for a second. So 2019 was a pretty big year for you guys. We're having this conversation just a week or so into January, but December, just a few weeks ago, was a huge moment for you guys. Tell us a little bit about your family and what's going on there.
Yeah. So Sophia Sophia had she had big shoes to fill. She became a big sister. So she now has a little brother. He was born on December 13th. His name's Caleb. And we chose his name because Sophia can make some sounds. Her sounds have been really emerging. And one of her sounds is she can make the K sound in the back of her, like the K sound.
Yeah.
So when we first found out we were pregnant with Caleb, she started making that sound. And so we were like, oh gosh, we got to think of a good name, and how can we do this? And then one day I was driving her to school and she started making the K sound, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing a K name. So then we can relate it back to a memory of her making that one of those first sounds for the first time. And yeah, so we'll ask her, and she'll say "k" when we're like, "Where's your brother?" And she'll say K. She'll say her K sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of why we named him Caleb.
That's so great.
Yeah. So we're very excited.
And what does she think of being a big sister?
So it's definitely were easing into it. We put her down because Sophia gets so excited. She flaps her arms and she gets and screams her happy sounds. So she was doing that when she met him, and she bunked him right in the forehead. So we were like, okay, so we're gonna ease into this. But she just smiles at him, and it's been really sweet to watch. I've shared a few videos and moments, and I'm sure we'll have a ton of more heading your way.
Yeah.
So, so that's been really sweet, and she definitely claps at him and all of that. She'll do this sweet smile. So
I think
we know she loves him.
I think it's so great that you guys were so conscious in even the decision of his name. Is how can we help the brother-sister dynamic be as complete as possible? The fact that we're making it as easy as possible for Sophia to communicate to him and about him, simply by understanding where she is vocally and being able to choose a name that is in the sound range that she's capable of right now. I think that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's a thing. When you have a child like Sophia, you do things without even realizing what you're doing. I didn't even think about it like that. And the way you just said that was really, it's true. Yeah. You do things that you don't even realize you're doing to make life easier and make life more enjoyable for all of us.
Yeah.
And so we can all enjoy it together. 'Cause we always said, Sophia's teaching us things that we never learned or expected to know. And that's one thing that we said, Caleb's gonna learn so much from his sister that it's just we can't wait to see who he becomes as a person. And I know her life is gonna affect him in a positive way as well, and we're excited to see that form, but we're not rushing it because we do baby stage.
Yes. One of the things that you mentioned ahead of our call was the journey of going into your pregnancy with Caleb and some of the worry that came along with that. If you're open to it, dive into that for us a little bit. What was it like finding out you were expecting, specifically knowing the journey that you've been on with Sophia?
Yeah. So with Sophia's syndrome, Tyler and I are not carriers of her syndrome. It's completely spontaneous and random, her mutation. So there was a 1% chance that we could potentially have another child with the same syndrome. But a 1% chance when you're only 1 out of 1,000 in the world seems like 100%.
Yeah, that's a pretty big number. Yeah.
Yes. So when you're already so rare, you're okay, but this really, the 1% chance could happen. And, so, we got to the point where Sophia was in school, and we were like, all right, if we're going to do this, let's do it now before we get to the point where, we don't want to, we're too nervous to do this. And, so we started trying, and, of course, like, I was connected with our doctors and whatnot. So right when we found out we were pregnant, I headed into Boston, and I met with a genetics counselor, and we planned testing for, there's different testing you can get while the baby's in utero. So around 13 weeks, I got, it's called the CVS testing. And what they do is they go in through your abdomen and take a little piece of, they scrape off a little piece of the placenta, and they send that off to testing. She told me that the test is showing some abnormalities, but they're going to continue doing more tests. She did tell me what the abnormalities were, and they were showing trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome, and they were showing normal cells, and it was also showing trisomy 13. So we didn't even get to testing pitt-hopkins yet. So we were on to something totally new for us that we weren't expecting would even happen. And so she kind of set us up with, all right, so this is what the first test shows. And she basically told me that, if it's going to be anything, it's going to most likely be mosaic Down syndrome, which is the only form of Down syndrome that is random, by chance, and not inherited. So there we are again in a moment of, we could potentially be up against something that is random, spontaneous, and by chance again. And it was one of those feelings of like, wow, so the next week, before they went on to do more testing of the sample piece that was given, she told me, I want you to feel it. I want you to grieve it. I want you to be prepared in case this really is what you're going to get as a diagnosis. So, we went through for a week, we went through the whole process of grieving, our potential new diagnosis. And, as part of the journey, with having a diagnosis for Sophia, I wasn't expecting it to go, a different way. I was expecting okay, we're going to get a diagnosis. That's what my brain's wired for, because that's what I'm used to. You're calling me no matter what, because I know the result's going to be there, and I'm not waiting till Monday at this point. I need to know. At 9:05 on my birthday, she called me and she said, do you want your birthday gift? She's like, I rushed off the bus to tell you. It came back 100% normal. So we got past that first test result of that huge scare. But she did tell me, she said, you're not out of the woods yet. We're looking better, but it's not over. We're not calling it yet. We're not saying everything's normal yet, but we were on a better track. For this time around, we weren't expecting to have to go on another roller coaster ride. We already lived that ride with Sophia. And
we love to wrap up our chats with what have you learned and what advice would you give types of questions. And so just kind of piggybacking on what you just said, for families that are in the kind of situation that you guys were in about, thinking about growing their family, but faced with concerns about what that may look like, what advice would you give on how to process that season and how to land on, obviously no one can speak for every family and what's right for them. But what advice would you give on how to process that season and to land on a decision that is best for their family?
So I think that would be talking with your doctors. I think that's a huge one. So for us, like in the beginning, I actually went to I went to an IVF clinic, and I got like over 120 different syndromes and different things tested. They call them panels. So I got a bunch of panels done to see what I was a carrier of. And the funny part is I wasn't a carrier of anything, which, we can laugh about. But I went to the IVF clinic to kind of see what my options are. Like, is IVF something that I should be doing? And I just think really just doing your homework, talking to your genetic counselors, just talking with different, go to a clinic if that's going to help you. Just being open, talking to doctors and talking to friends, reaching out to other families within the communities that you're in. There's a lot of us in Pitt-Hopkins. I swear there's like 12 to 15 of us that are having babies between 2019 and 2020 just in Pitt-Hopkins. So something was in the water.
Yeah. So you get this whole kind of support group that's going to grow with you, even on all things parenting.
Sophia needs so much. Like, that was a big decision. She needs so much attention and love and care. Can we give that to another child? And honestly, I didn't even know up until like a week ago. I didn't know if that was something we could give. And then, here I was feeding Caleb and feeding Sophia dinner. And I was like, I took this picture and I sent it to a couple of my friends. And I was like, I feel like this is powerful. Like, this is like, this is something I wish like I knew that I would be able to do what he needed and what she needed and adapt to it and do it at the same exact time. And we'll survive and we'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. We are so excited for you, and we just love you and Tyler and Caleb now and Sophia, and we're so grateful for you just to take a little bit of time today and give us an update. And we are just so excited to see your family continue to grow and to see Sophia continue to thrive and crush all those inchstones and milestones, and we'll be there with you celebrating each one.
Thanks so much. We're so appreciative of the Go Shout Love family and all the other families that we've met through Go Shout Love. It's just been an awesome community that we've been a part of, and we're so lucky. And thanks for chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Be sure to tell everyone hi for us.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to become involved in shouting love for families like Sophia's, go to our website, goshout.love, and start a subscription. Every month, an amazingly comfortable and uniquely designed t-shirt will be sent to you, and you will be doing something good with what you wear for the family of that month. Use the discount code podcast at checkout, and you get $5 off your first month's order. Once the t-shirt comes in, put it on, listen to another episode of our podcast, review it, and then go shout love. Thanks, everyone.